You're scrolling through kitchen appliances because you want something that actually works day to day, not just a shiny billboard of specs. You're probably thinking, do I really need a 36-inch range that does induction, convection, air fry, and Sous Vide all in one? Or am I just adding another piece of metal that will end up gathering grease and taking up space? That hesitation is real, especially when the price tag is high enough to make you double-check the return policy. You want a unit that feels solid, doesn't demand a PhD to operate, and actually saves you time and money in the long run. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So, what does the Forno Torino 36-inch induction range bring to a typical home kitchen? First off, the 5-zone induction cooktop is the heart of the unit. Induction heats instantly, so you're not waiting for a pan to finally notice you've turned the knob. For a busy family that needs to get breakfast on the table while the kids are still in their pajamas, that quick response can shave a couple of minutes off every morning routine. The zones are spaced out enough to accommodate a large Dutch oven on one side and 2 smaller saucepans on the other, which is a real convenience if you're juggling a stir-fry while simmering a sauce. The oven side packs a 300-watt true convection system. In practice, that means the fan and heating elements work together to move hot air around the 4.32 cuff cavity at a speed that actually reduces cooking time without drying out the food. I tested a whole chicken on the roast setting, and it hit a golden crisp in about 45 minutes instead of the hour-plus you'd see in a conventional oven. The air fry mode uses the same convection power but cranks up the airflow, letting you get that fried texture without dumping a quart of oil. For a household that loves crispy wings but hates the mess of a deep fryer, that mode is a genuine time saver. The Sous Vide function is another built-in specialty. It runs the oven at low, precise temperatures for hours, and because the door seals tightly, it mimics a water bath environment. If you've ever tried Sous Vide at home with a separate immersion circulator, you know the setup can be fiddly plastic bags, a pot of water, a separate gadget to monitor temperature. The Torino's integrated mode lets you just set the temperature, place the sealed bag on the rack, and walk away. For a weekend project foodie who wants perfectly tender steak without buying another appliance, that's a neat consolidation. All of that sounds impressive, but the real question is whether it's worth the space it occupies and the cost. The Torino's stainless steel is treated to resist smudges, which is a subtle but appreciated detail. In a kitchen where you're constantly wiping down splatters, a surface that doesn't show fingerprints after a quick pass with a damp cloth feels less like a chore. The unit's footprint is 36 inches wide, so it demands a full-size range cutout. If your kitchen layout is tighter, say, you have a 30-inch space or an older countertop with a smaller cutout, this is a deal breaker. It's not a unit you can just slide into a niche. You need to plan the cabinetry around it. Who should buy this? If you're a serious home cook who values speed, likes to experiment with multiple cooking techniques, and already has the countertop space for a 36-inch range, the Torino feels like a natural upgrade. Think of families that do batch cooking on weekends, or people who host dinner parties and want to roast, bake, air fry, and Sous Vide without moving dishes between appliances. The 5 induction zones also mean you can keep multiple pots simmering while the oven does its thing, which is a practical advantage for large gatherings. Who should skip it? First, renters, or anyone who can't commit to a permanent installation. The unit is heavy, and moving it later would be a hassle. Second, if you're satisfied with a standard electric or gas range and only occasionally want an air fry function, you'll probably get more bang for your buck with a dedicated countertop air fryer. Third, if your cooking style leans heavily on low-temperature slow cooking, or you rarely use high-heat searing, the induction advantage may not be fully realized. In those cases, the extra cost could feel like paying for features you'll barely touch. Now, let's talk about the practical drawbacks. The first is the learning curve. Even though the control panel is labeled, the multiple cooking modes can be confusing at first. You have to toggle between induction, convection, air fry, and Sous Vide settings, each with its own temperature and time inputs. If you're used to a single knob or a simple dial, you'll spend a few evenings watching the manual just to get comfortable. The second issue is power demand. The 300-watt oven draws a significant amount of electricity, so you'll want to make sure your home circuit can handle it without tripping breakers, especially if you run other high-draw appliances at the same time. I've seen a few anecdotal reports of households needing